Hello there, beautiful teachers, and welcome back to another Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. This is the weekly show on YouTube where we talk about all things music teaching, and we have a lot of fun hanging out together as well. If you are new here, make sure to say hi in the comments. We do not bite. We're the friendliest community on the internet. I was about to say YouTube, but seriously, we're the friendliest group around. So please do say hello. You won't get any judgments or snapping back or anything like that here, only friendliness. And I'm excited to talk about group workshops today, and excited that so many of you are here to talk about it as well. I see Tanis and Mary and Victoria and Sonia have just joined, and Heather I already said hello to. So welcome everyone that's here. Let me know how you're getting on with group workshops, what's going on for you in that area, and if you have questions in general, just type the word question followed by your question. If it's not immediately relevant to the discussion at that moment, I might come back to it at the end. If it's immediately relevant, I might get to it in the flow of the show, but I always get back and make sure I get to everything at the end. And today I will be extra careful to do that because it's our last show before summer break. So I'll make sure we stick around to answer as many questions as you can throw at me. So fire away, and I'll stick around to answer all of those at the end. Now, before we get to our discussion on groups, I just have a couple of bits of news for you. Okay, so first up, if you are a Vibrant Music Teaching member, I want to highlight two things to you that are kind of time sensitive if you're watching right now. So this is only for members. Of course, if you're not a member, you can sign up at vibrantmusicteaching.com. But if you already are, we have our huddle calls coming up tomorrow. Okay, so those are your chance to get on Zoom with other flamingos, other members, and chat and connect and commiserate and all the things we need to do with each other. So that is tomorrow. There's 2 times. Make sure you check the member calendar because that's much more efficient and less confusing than me throwing a whole heap of time zones at you right now. So I'm not going to do that. They are automatically in your time zone if you check the member calendar. It's on your member dashboard, which is like your member homepage. So that's tomorrow. And then we have something else that's time sensitive, which is an idea I've had for a while. Okay, I'm going to try and be brief about this. I did explain this further in the VMT Clubhouse Facebook group. So if you want to hop over there, if you're a member, if you are a fan of Facebook, you'll be in there and you can watch the video there. The basic idea is that it's a teacher exchange of lessons. So it's for teachers who want to take lessons themselves, but can't find someone local, can't find someone in the right style, hasn't been able to find the finances for it. If you are in that camp, if you feel like you want to take lessons, we're going to run this as a trial over summer. And the idea is that you commit to doing 1 weekly lesson. Of course, will be a bit flexible. Like if you're going away for a few weeks, that's fine. We're all friends here. We're all going to be members. And as long as no one is taking advantage, which I don't think anyone will, it'll all work out fine. So roughly most of the weeks of the summer, if you're free and you want to do this exchange, you're going to be committing to giving 1 lesson a week to one flamingo and taking a lesson every week from a different flamingo. So it's a little swap around so that it's not the same, so that you have a teacher and student dynamic in one pairing and the other way around in another pairing. Because I think if you just had a pair of teachers and you swap back and forth, it would be a little bit, it might work fine, but it would be a little bit confusing in terms of the relationship. And I just think it's clearer if you have a teacher that's not also your student, right? So if that sounds like something you're after, check out the Facebook group, or if you're not on Facebook, check out the email which I sent out on Friday. I am going to close that on Wednesday and match people up because this is just a first trial run, so I'm just opening it for a few days, getting a few people in there. I've already got a chunk, so we've got enough to get it up and running, but I'm going to give you a couple more days to apply. So if you want to do that, I think it should be fun. I think if you've thought about taking lessons yourself for a while, you've been struggling to fit in with regular practice, I think this could be great for you. So if you want to give it a go over the summer, summer for us, obviously in this hemisphere, July, August kind of period, then just fill in that form and then I'll add you into the mix, and I'm going to match up the time zones on Wednesday. Should be super fun. Rocho, great question. No, there isn't right now. But if you just email support, just email support. So support@vibrantmusicteaching.com and let us know what you want to change, and we'll get on it. So no worries. Okay. Yes, so that's all on that. And then we have neurodiversity all around going on the blog. So we have a podcast out about that. It's called Neurodiverse Brains and the Piano Lesson. And it's just a breakdown of all the things we talked about on the show last week. So now you have the two together. You've got the video where I'm talking through it. And now you've got the written blog post where I go into the written blog post where the guest writer goes into all the details of the different diagnoses that are most relevant to piano teachers. So both things together should enable you to make your studio more inclusive, which is something that I hope to help you with, really, because I think all studios should be more inclusive than maybe some students are experiencing right now. And then one last little mention, on YouTube, we had a new video go out, which is about how to do formula pattern scales. So some people call these Russian scales. They're where you go up 2 octaves and then contrary motion, and then up another 2 octaves, similar motion, and then contrary motion, and come back down, and then contrary motion. So you'll see why I recorded a video of it, because that's confusing to explain. So if you don't know this pattern yourself and you want to learn it, you can look it up. But you can also use this to share with students if you want to get them into this type of scales and they've been confused by it. This is a great resource for you. So that's all my major news. Let's dive into talking about group workshops. Okay, so if you've been thinking about introducing group workshops into your studio, there are a lot of different things to consider. You need to think about what type of group workshops you're going to run, how you're going to fit them into your studio schedule, and then what are you going to do in them? So we're going to go through all the logistics and the lesson planning parts in this video so that you have a full overview of everything you need to consider if you're bringing this in or you want to improve the ones you're currently doing. So let's start. First of all, I want to hear what type of group workshops you do in your studio. So make sure to add that into the comments. I'll give you an overview here of what I think are the most common ways of fitting them into your schedule. The first type are bonus group workshops. These are ones that are additional to regular lessons, whether your regular lessons are buddy lessons or solo lessons or anything else. These group workshops are done in addition to that, and they are bonuses, meaning your students do not pay extra for them. Now, of course, you can do this at any time frame you want, right? They could be once a month, they could be once a year, they could be every week. Probably not every week in this circumstance, but if there's no extra charge for them and they are bonuses, that's one way to do them, and I do that type in my studio. There's also the standard double up, I'm calling it. So I know some local schools here in Dublin who do it this way, like my students attend lessons for another instrument there, so I know they do it this way. And this is where students come for a regular lesson and a group lesson every week. Now, this really makes your group format a core part of your teaching because it's not something extra. It's not really optional. It can't be optional if it's every week because, it's going to be a core part of how you teach and you're going to need to roll it into tuition. So many schools will do this as students just have half an hour solo and they have half an hour group or an hour group every week. The downside to this for parents is that they need to come to you twice. I mean, you'll have a couple of students who line up before and after the group workshop that is for their age range or whatever, or their level, but generally they're going to be coming to you twice, and generally you're not going to want to make this multi-age, multi-level. You're going to want to narrow it down so that it's really, you can progress through things week to week and it can become a really important part of how you teach theory or musicianship skills oral, rhythm, all that kind of thing. So I think this can be great, but it does require a pretty committed family. And you do have to kind of go all in my view, in your studio to make it work, because you need to have your numbers even out enough. If you make this optional and you split it up by age or level, or both, then you're not going to end up with enough students in each class to make it work, right? So I prefer, if you're going for this, I think you go all in, and it's not an option that parents can opt in or out of and pay extra for. It's just part of your tuition and they have to do it. Then we have in lieu group lessons. So these are if you choose to take some time off of your regular teaching schedule and do groups all that week. One teacher who does this is Amy Chaplin, and I'd actually really recommend, as a supplement to today's show, her podcast she did a little while ago. So her show is called Piano Pantry, like a pantry in a kitchen. So Piano Pantry, and if you look up her podcast about the sort of evolution of group workshops in her studio, I think that's a great one to look at in addition to this show. But when you do them in lieu, it's instead of your regular teaching that week, and you'll normally have pretty regular group workshops. So when we do this type as well in my studio just once a year, which is our pre-recital week, our pre-concert week in May. And we do groups all that week instead of regular lessons for all our under 18 students. It's not only for those who are participating in the recital, but we don't include adults in this. So they just have their regular lessons. That works out for us because all of our adults are at the end of a teaching day. So timetabling wise, it works out fine for us to then slot in a group before that and still have the timetable make sense, our schedule makes sense. So we do this once a year, as I said. You could do it once a month and have it be a really big feature in your studio. But I would recommend that you end up with a group every day of the week. What we actually did, now keep in mind it's myself and 2 other teachers here, but what we did is we had a in-person option and an online option every day of that week. And students were allowed to sign up for just one or as many of those as they wanted to. So most did between 1 and 3. Nobody really went over that, but some really did take up 3 spots, and that was great. They did some online, they did some in the studio, like a couple online and 1 in the studio or whatever. And they were allowed to choose any of those, and we opened the sign up in my music staff. So I think this format works best when you do multi-age, multi-level group workshops, because you don't want it to be a huge imposition on parents' schedule. Like if it ends up being a slightly different time than their lesson, that's fine. Normally parents will have a little bit of wiggle room on their lesson day, or they'll have a different day they can do. But it's going to be really tough if you say, okay, all students age 5 to 6 have to come to the Monday workshop. And this parent has another thing on Monday, and you don't normally have groups, like they normally have their lesson on Wednesdays. So that would be a tough sell in my view. I think those have to be mixed age, mixed level, unless you're going to do just so many of them, or try and schedule it all for families and take requests from families. I just think that would be a mess. So I think they need to be mixed ones. So that's in lieu. So far we've had bonuses, which I do. Standard double ups, as in it's part of how you teach and it's something you do every single week with everyone. That I don't do. And then we have in lieu, which is where you take a week off of regular teaching and you do groups that week instead. So those are 3 really common types. You also have groups that are during holiday breaks or directly before holidays. So that can kind of be an in lieu one, but also they can be like after the break has already started, you do groups then. And those ones and others can be an upsell. So they can be a bonus, as we talked about earlier, but it could also be something that you upsell to students, meaning they are already your students, but this is something additional that they can purchase. Just keep in mind, that might sound really attractive to you, and it could be, But keep in mind that you are going to have to seriously market those groups. You're not going to be able to just say to parents, hey, this is happening. It's 20 quid, sign up here. You're probably going to have to really sell those, just like you really have to sell students on joining your studio in some cases, right? This is a whole other thing to sell to them. So keep that in mind if you're going to go for the bonuses. You really have to be willing to put in the marketing legwork to make them really profitable for you, because if you have only a few signups, you're not going to make much money off that. So keep that in mind, but that is another option. The next thing to consider is your length and your leveling of these groups. So we talked a little bit about leveling and which ones might be multi-age or multi-level so far. The ones that I do as bonuses all year, and basically students have the option to attend 1 or 2 every month, those are multi-level, but they are an age bracket. Okay? So it's any level between the ages of, for example, 9 and 11. But they can be any level. So the brand new beginners are going to be together with those who've been learning for 5 years by age 9. So I like that because of my goals for the group workshop. So you need to think about your goals. What is it you want to achieve? Now, if you really want to reinforce note reading skills, you're going to be better off going with a single level approach that maybe is multi-age. But what I want from the groups is camaraderie more than anything. It's for them to see other students who are going through the same things that they are. So type your goal into the comments. What is it that you want to get out of workshops, whether you're doing them already or just considering them? What do you want to do with them? What are they for? Because just doing them because it sounds like a good idea is going to leave you floundering with a lot of these decisions. You need to decide why they're happening. Is it for profit? Because then you're going to do the upsell versions. And you're probably going to have to get quite narrow with what the focus is to really sell it. It's all about something that would be appealing to students, like pop music or chords or jazz playing or whatever. Or is the purpose reinforcing theory, in which case you're going to probably go for multi-age but not multi-level? Or is it like me, where it's really about social interaction and yes, building theory skills, but more building oral skills, which I can do very easily in a multi-level format. And it's really about connecting with other students. That's the most important part of it. So what's the most important part to you? That's something to consider. Now, the other consideration is the length. And I think this really moves with how often you do them. So I used to do groups, originally it was twice a year. Oh, this is going to sound a little bit mad when I say it all, but originally it was twice a year, went up to 4 times a year, then it went up to 8, and now we're at, I don't even know how to count it anymore, because I've now split it up by age. So when I was doing multi-age, multi-level, which is possible, I was doing 2, then 4, then 8 a year in that format. And now I have groups of ages, so 5 to 8, 9 to 11, and then 12 plus get to attend a weekly class, so that's completely separate. So I really just have these 2 brackets of the group workshops, and they get the opportunity to attend 2 per month. So that's 20, but I'm really doing 40, something like that. Anyway, I'm doing a lot of them. So that has meant that I've shrunk the time, because doing those as 90 minutes, which was my original format, I've actually done some that are 2 hours, but anyway, 90 minutes was my default before, when I did a lot of multi-age and multi-level. Now that I do them really frequently, they are 45 minutes. I don't recommend going under 45 minutes. I think you're going to be really frustrated with how little you get done, and the students are just, in a bad way, going to be left going, oh my gosh, it's over? Because, and to the parents, it feels like a lot to drive over there to organize this that isn't part of their regular schedule just for half an hour. I don't think it's quite enough. I think 45 minutes is great. And I think anything up to 2 hours can be great. If you're going to go with 90 minutes or 2 hours, a longer session, I would highly recommend planning a break in there. And the break can actually be fairly substantial, 10-15 minutes. You can put on some background music and you can have some juices ready or even just water, but it's a break and people get to sit around and chat. And maybe have a little icebreaker chatty game, but that's it. And it's much more like they get a moment to chill out and talk to each other in the way that they want to, and there's less structure. So would recommend a break if it's longer, but I think anywhere from 45 to 90 minutes is comfortable for most teachers, up to 2 hours, especially if you're doing a lot of performances in the workshop, because that's less intensive for you. Okay, so those are some of the logistics. Now the final thing is the big question I often get, which is about the scheduling. So here's the thing. You cannot make it suit everyone. It's not possible. You need to let go of that idea. The way around I recommend you think about it is that you're going to think about when might be the best for everyone and then announce it and let the chips fall where they may, basically. Because as long as it's something that is not a core part of your offer, like if you're doing them in lieu of your regular lessons, you're going to want to make sure there's something to suit every parent. But if they are a bonus, then they're a bonus. And if parents can't attend them because they have a super busy week, well, that's just something that you can't help. So if you are doing them for the first time and you've no idea when it's going to suit people, send out a form, a Google form, or like a little poll of some kind, whatever suits you tech-wise. Send it out and put in all the options that you can definitely do, and then let people vote and tell them you'll go with the majority or you'll take it into consideration or something like that. And then parents really can't be upset if they just happen to be in the minority. Like, you have given choice. Now, I don't even survey anymore. I have done that for when I did the longer ones and they were less frequent. I would survey before them to make a plan that suited more people. But now I just do them. And it's because I fit them into my regular teaching timetable. Because I'm going to do so many, like they're a regular part of my teaching. I have some weeks off, but they need to fit in my regular teaching timetable or it's not going to be sustainable for me. So I just tell people when they are. It's really that simple. And I do send out email reminders a week before to encourage them to log into my music staff and register, because that's the way we work it in my studio. So either just announce it. If there's only one time that's actually good for you, just announce it and, let it happen. Or do a survey. If there's several times that you think would work fine for you, do a survey and then tell them you'll go with the majority. It's not going to be possible to suit everyone, but you want to suit as many people as possible. They will totally understand that, okay? Now, if they are going to be a core part of your offer, that's different, and that is something you'll need to consider very carefully, and you'll probably just end up having to do more of them to suit more people. Okay, so that's how you set them up, and that's how you plan to incorporate them in your studio. Now what do you do? Am I right? Is that your next question? Okay. I have, 6 things here, which I think are easy peasy to include and work great. I want you to keep in mind as I work through these, I'm just going to give you an idea of each one and what you might do. All of these are laid out in detail in our new resource, which is coming out on the 24th of June. Okay, so it's just a couple of weeks out. Literally 2 weeks out, isn't it? No, less. Sorry. At the time of recording, it's 11 days. I can do maths. So it's on the 24th of June. It's coming out and it's a fully laid out plan and course to talk you through it. And it is a pick and mix style. So it's going to have these components with fully detailed options for you. And then you can put it together whatever way you want. It's called the Ultimate Adaptable Group Workshop Plan. And it really is the ultimate adaptable version. So it works for all my different multi-level and even my multi-age groups. No problem. Easy peasy. So much quicker to plan my groups, honestly, since I made this. I have been testing it all year and it has worked for every occasion without fuss from me. So it's been fantastic. So here are the 6 ideas that are included in that, but know that if you want that and you're a member, you'll be able to see it step by step laid out. So don't feel like you have to take notes right now, especially if you're a member. Okay, the first thing I would recommend you do in your groups, without question, is some type of singing. So there's two main types that I would like you to include. Number one is some form of salsa singing, practicing singing along in salsa. You can do this just with you showing hand signs, and you can just show patterns and do that as a quick warm-up and have students then do them, and they're the leader. That's really fun, super simple. You can also do something like Salsa Railroad, which is our VMT resource, which is a sight singing where you're reading on the staff and you're reading in Salsa. And if you hate Salsa for some reason, you can totally use those and use your own system, whether that's numbers or the letter names, I don't know. Whatever suits you, basically. But I like Salsa. Then the other type of singing I'd recommend you do is some form of singing games. So most of mine are inspired by or taken from Kodai methodology. So some of the ones I do are just traditional folk tunes with singing games that I get ideas from, mostly from NICOS, which is the National Youth Choir of Scotland, their resources. But there's tons out there, and there's a great website. It is called the Kodai Hub. Kodai Hub. So that's Kodally, if you haven't heard the name before, Hub, Hub. If you look that up, you can look up tons of sheet music of great free songs, and a lot of them have games, and you can filter for the ones that have games, so that's fantastic. In the new Ultimate Adaptable Group Workshop plan, I have written singing games for that plan specifically, so you'll also have those very soon. The next thing I would recommend is rhythm, some form of rhythm work. The reason I would recommend both singing and rhythm is they're amazing equalizers. If you have multi-level, multi-age, but especially multi-level groups, then those two things just naturally work on multiple levels. Like, you don't even need to try. If you're singing or doing rhythm activities, the stronger students in those areas are going to kind of lead the way, right? They're going to go ahead and do it right on the first try, and the other ones can sing along or can tap along or do the actions along with that leader student. Now, you're not dubbing someone the leader. I'm just saying whoever is strongest is going to sound confident and do it a bit louder, and then on the repetitions, they're just enjoying doing it. There's no issue with that, right? They're still enjoying the process, and the ones who needed a bit more reinforcement, they just get to practice as it's done again and again. So rhythm things like Rhythm Railroad, all our different rhythm games, and ideas found in Rhythm in 5, which is my book, which is over there, the tealy one. Rhythm in 5, all of those are great for this kind of scenario. The next thing I would recommend you do is practice skills. So this might sound odd to you, but a lot of the practice methods we use, like the strategies that you may use with your students, even if they're very simple, like plus one, like starting with the last bar measure and then adding one before it and then adding one before that. That's just one example. But there are loads of others. If you do things like that in your studio, you can teach them so much more effectively to a whole group of students. And then you can have them all practicing. And it makes it so much more fun because they get to giggle at each other or talk about it together versus just sitting there and doing it with you in your one-on-one lesson. So a great resource for this in VMT is practice plays. Those are the ones I've been using for a long time in all my practice work in group workshops, online and offline. So those work great. And it will naturally adapt again to the student's level. So if you have a student that is playing, intermediate repertoire and a student who's right at the beginning, they can still use the same strategy on their own piece. And you can have them try it out and they'll see each other's piece, and it's great for all involved because everyone gets to experience all the different ends of music studies and where each person is on their journey. So that's practice skills. We've got singing games, we've got rhythm, and we've got practice skills. The next would be just simply games. You might have predicted this one. Now, you can definitely do like music theory games, and if you have a single level class, you can make it specific to whatever it is you're doing. That's what I'm doing when I have buddy students working together. However, you also can do our multi-level games. We have loads of games that come in 4 or 5 levels, and you can use those and the students can do them side by side. So one student has the level 1 cards and they're moving along the same board as a student with the level 4 cards who's being asked about, I don't know, accelerando or something. And the beginner student is just being asked about steps and skips. And they can play right alongside each other. So the other thing that works great in the games department, though, are what I call discovery games. So discovery games are ones that do not in any way check or test your knowledge. Some of our interval games work like this, but the best ones, I think, for groups are actually the ones in the music history section. If you look that up in the library, select music history in the subject. And I think most of them that I've made are actually discovery games rather than trying to test a student on their music history. Because I honestly just I don't know about you, but I don't think it's realistic that they're going to remember Mozart's birth year. Like if we're not a music history studio, it's important that they have some awareness. I'm not saying it isn't, but the detailed facts, those will come later if they continue studying to a much later age, right? So, but what they can benefit from is getting a general overview of things. So my favorites are, there are so many, but to give you an idea, there's games like Baroque Boulevard. So we have Baroque Boulevard, Classical Causeway, Romantic Road, yes, and then Jazz Journey, I think I call that one. So there's 4 in that series, sort of thing. And those ones, you just learn about that era or that type of music as you move along the board. And there's things for students to do and discuss along the way. That's why I like these games, because they tend to spark discussion, which is really important in a group. Especially where students don't know each other, right? They're not in the same class in school every day. They're just meeting for this. Then there's also another great one for this, and there's loads of them, but this is another favorite of mine, is Cristofori Quiz. Cristofori Quiz. Oh my gosh, that's a tongue twister. But this is a game where you learn about the history of the piano, and I just love doing it because students get to guess, and like it's multiple choice. So they're asked like, how many piano keys are there? And one of the answers is probably 300 or something. And some of them will guess that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, but it gets them chatting and it's really fun. And they kind of talk to each other. Like any groups I've done it with, they tend to help each other out and help each other guess the answers in the end. Because it is really hard for them to actually know. So they are guessing. And it's just really fun. We love doing that one. So all the music history section are great. And Mary, it's great to hear your experience with them as well as shopping with Chopin. We have a lot of different punny games in the music history department and more on the way soon. We actually have a series of 4 composer games coming out in autumn. Autumn to winter, I guess. September to December. There's 1 per month coming out in VMT, just as a little preview for you. And those are going to be about Ethel Smythe. Any fans? And who else do we have? It's escaping me right now, the other 3. But anyway, Ethel Smythe is one of them. It's sort of lesser known composers or composers students wouldn't have heard of. So, I'm really excited about those. And those are more discovery games. So there's more of those on the way. Okay, 2 other suggestions for what you can do. Next one is performance practice. This is what a lot of people default to, so I've left it for 5th, but it is a great thing to do. This is what we were doing for the majority of the time in our pre-recital groups. So where we had groups all week in lieu of private lessons, all the students that came, even if they weren't performing in the concert, they had opted out, they still played something for everyone, so it was great to do that. And you can practice all the performance etiquette stuff. bowing and smiling like you're actually enjoying playing for everyone even though you're nervous and all that stuff. So that's a great thing to do. Just make sure it's not that you do plan it out and that you have a structure in mind, not just come along, everyone play something, leave. That feels a bit meh for students, so make sure there's something else going on as well, but it is a great thing to do for some of them. And then the last activity is what I call build a band. Now, I think you may need to read the written instructions on this, but I'm going to do my best to explain. So build a band is where we take a piece of music. Okay, imagine it with me. See the piece of music in your mind. We take that and then we work out together what the underlying chord structure is. So of course I've picked something that's going to be easy to figure out or that has a, is very chordal. So we pick out what is the underlying harmony here, and then we write in the chords as if it's a lead sheet or a chord chart. We write in the chords above the staff. And I like to color code mine if I have beginners so that I can put matching colors on the keys and they with our little keyboard map, and they can just use that for reference. So we put in the chords and then we have a band. So we have however many students fit at all your pianos, okay? Even if you just have one, it's 3 students probably, right? But maybe you have a piano and then a keyboard, so you can fit 4 to 6 students there. So you fit in as many students as you can there. And then you have other students who are on percussion. So it could be tune percussion, like if you have a xylophone around, or boom whackers, or anything like that, handbells, anything. Or if you just have little percussion instruments, untuned, maracas, drums, whatever you have. So all of those students have one instrument each, and then the rest of the students are at the piano. Everyone has something to do. And then you're going to play this piece as an accompaniment for one improviser. So you pick one student who's sitting at a piano, usually on the treble side. They are the improviser. Tell them what scale to use or tell them which notes they're allowed to play. Like it's all the white keys or it's all the black keys or it's the white keys but not F sharp, right? If you need to talk like that, or if you can just say to your student, hey, it's in A major. Okay? So they're going to improvise in that key, and then everyone else is going to form the harmony. So if they have the percussion instruments, the untuned percussion, obviously they're just doing the beat, and you should give each of those students a note value or a rhythm pattern to do. So you give one student ta, ti, ti, ta, ti, ti, and tell them to repeat that until the end, and then another student is just doing semi-breves, ta, 2, 3, 4. You get the idea? So things that fit together, make sure you're matching the time signature, obviously. And then all the other students are going to play the harmony, all the students with tuned instruments. And they're either just going to do the root note or the chord if that's something they're able to do. So they can do the root note, they could do a third, they could do a fifth, or a triad for each chord. And then one of the percussion students I will have be our leader, and they're going to tap in for 4 beats or for 3 beats. They're going to tap in, right? So they're going to use the drum and go 1, 2, ready, go. Then everyone starts together and they are basically the leader. So everyone needs to follow their beat. Okay, hope that description made sense to you. They're all at different stations. One is an improviser. Everyone else is forming the harmony. And it's just based on the underlying chord structure of this piece. Then they're going to rotate. And they're just going to rotate around and around and around until everyone has done every spot, if you have time for that. So this is really fun. And at first it's going to sound like an absolute mess because they're not even going to count carefully enough at all. But if you keep emphasizing that everyone has to follow that drummer and what note value everyone should do, you can get them all playing in time. And it's so good for so many things. First of all, it's super fun. Second of all, they get to play with a whole bunch of other musicians in a way where they can't get too much wrong, so it's not a lot of pressure, but they get that experience of playing in a group. And third of all, if you haven't noticed, it's amazing for their ears and their rhythm skills. So that's one of my favorite things to do, especially with a bigger group of students. I absolutely love it. I've been doing it for years with loads of different music, and it's fantastic. If you want one of these that's already laid out for you, that is in some of our previous group workshop plans, but you can absolutely build this out of any piece. And if you have like a particular focus on some composer in your studio, or you can just use a piece that one of the students is learning and really highlight that can be really fun. So those are all your different ideas, 6 different ideas that work for pretty much any group workshop. We've got singing games, self-singing, then we've got rhythm, teaching practice strategies, games, whether those are multi-level, single level, or discovery games like our music history ones. Then you've got performance practice and build a band. So those are all detailed in much more detail with examples and with fully laid out songs and rhythm activities for you to do in our course, which is coming out on the 24th of June. I'm really looking forward to getting that into your hands. Okay, we have to choose for Ask Me Anything, and we need to ask questions. So start by asking your questions. Type the word question, followed by your question, and then ask me anything. And choose for me. We've got this rainbow hair changing one, which is quite fun. Or we've got these cool glasses. So vote on that and ask your questions. I think they're both pretty good, don't you think? I think I could wear these to a New Year's party. Which one's it gonna be? Vote in the chat and ask me any of your questions. Rachel votes for rainbow hair. Mary votes for glasses. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be a close one. These butterflies go kind of in my mouth, don't they? That's funny. Oh, it's 50-50. Everyone else has to vote. Come on, guys. We need to know which one to do. One more vote for glasses. I think that makes it glasses. We're gonna go with it. Okay, we're sticking with the cool glasses. Slightly won out, but that was a close one. I think we'll have to keep the rainbow hair for when we come back in September. All right, let me search for your questions, and do ask your question if you have one in the chat. Happy to stay on as long as you like. Remember, or if you missed it at the start, this is our last one for summer, so we won't be back until September. So if you have any questions for me, now is the time to ask them. Quick question from Vivo Keys. No, I didn't. Oh, sorry. I thought you said, did you end the book club? But anyway, we did do a couple of weeks of book club. We're gonna have to pick it up again because we had a couple of weeks where we couldn't fit it in. So that's why. And today was another one of those because I had to roll what was supposed to be 2 weeks of topics into one to make sure we covered them before the summer break. I've already answered that. Rachel, how do I ask helicopter parents to stop sitting in on the lessons? I have a student who won't be themselves in front of this parent, so it's hard for me to connect with the students. Okay, so have you asked it all yet, Rachel? Or is this like, I haven't even brought it up because I'm scared? I would really just be quite honest with them in a kind way. I would say, listen, you've been sitting in on Stevie's lessons for the past 6 months, and I love it when parents do that at the start because it really makes sure we're all on the same page. At this stage, I like to test doing it both ways. So I like to test having you in the lessons and out of the lessons to see which way is more productive for Stevie, because it so depends on each student. Does that make sense? Hope that helps, Rachel. Yeah, I have had that conversation before, and honestly, I have been really nervous about it, and it has always gone much, much better than I expected. It can be scary, like I totally get that, but I think most parents get what you're saying. Once you bring it up, they kind of imagine themselves with their parents sitting in on their lessons, or at least I feel like that's what they're doing, and they go, oh yeah, that wouldn't be great. They do need independence sometimes. So most parents will understand quite quickly, in my experience. In fact, I haven't had one who didn't immediately get what I was saying. But yeah, Okay, if that is all our questions, I'm going to wrap it up there and tell Tofu to stop yelling. If you can hear him, hopefully he's not too loud for you. That's my dog, by the way. I don't have talking Tofu, but I do have a dog that is very loud. And his name is Tofu. Okay, me and Tofu are going to say goodbye and wish you a wonderful summer. In fact, I'm going to go back just so that I can say goodbye properly face to face. I hope you have an epic summer. If you're taking some time off at this time of year, please enjoy it. Stay away from your work. Really take the time to disconnect and recharge. I will be doing the same thing, as well as preparing some fantastic membership content for the new academic year. And have a fantastic summer, and I will see you back here in September. See you then, everyone. Bye.